welcome to episode 7 of A Cat and Her Yarn Respun. As promised last week, I have a finished object of some weaving. I inserted some in-progress pictures in last week's episode, but here is a section of the finished object. This has not been wet finished at all. It's also a little bit more heavily beaten than the piece I did wet finish, which is also a little bit bigger. And I don't know if you can tell, this is not perfectly rectangular. This side is wider than this side because I started playing with what I learned later with the term was pix, which is the number of passes per inch. I didn't even realize that was such a thing. I thought you were supposed to, beat as hard as you could with the shuttle, the reeds, to get things close together. And no, you're supposed to actually pay attention to how strong or how soft you are beating the weave to produce different kinds of fabrics. And I was just playing around with it at first, doing different things. And it got progressively thicker together, closer together. But because this one was the only one where I did it looser, I wanted to wet finish this one, and I actually threw this in the washing machine with hot water and extra agitation to see how much it would felt. And it did shrink because it was like 20% wool. It's 80% cotton, 20% wool. And it did shrink about half an inch on either side, I think, which is a bit, but that's okay. I don't think you can tell even with the two of them put together. You can from the edges here because these all fluffed up because the warp was 100% cotton. But now this piece was originally longer anyways. And then I made this section as square as I could. And because of the way it kind of pooled, I think I want to do a weave a herringbone pattern, some sort of chevron. And so in the process of trying to figure this out, I learned how to read weaving drafts, weaving patterns. And for those who didn't watch last week's episode, this is the yarn that I was weaving with. It is a Cascade Sierra Quattro worsted weight. It's a 4-ply of dark purple, lavender, green, and white. 80% Pima cotton, 20% wool. And I do believe it is discontinued. And I had bought a whole bunch of it to make a shrug. Back when even before I was knitting, actually, I bought it for when I was null binding. I did some interesting slicing techniques on the proto shrug I started. So it's just been sitting, it's probably some of the oldest yarn that's been sitting in my stash, and being mostly cotton, I thought it would be a good first weaving project for me. I had over, I think I have 1,150 yards. And doing this sampler so far only took up I think I estimated about 36 yards. When I plugged in to a weaving calculator website, if I wanted to make myself a shawl out of this, I think at most it's going to take 750 yards. So I've got plenty to play with. So I'm going to warp up another little sampler, again about this wide, and see, it was 6 inches, and then after it was woven it came down to 5 inches, so at least on the tighter one it came down to 5 inches, just a slight tad over 5 inches. It was 72 strands on a 12 set reed. I'm still learning all the terminologies for weaving. But basically there's 12 slots per inch on the reed that came with the loom we found. And I'm going to warp it up that way again, pay attention to how many passes per inch I'm getting, and do it in different kinds of herringbone weaves. Basically, instead of just threading the, I think they're the heddles, just two of them. What I have is a 4 harness loom, so I'm going to thread all 4 reeds, harnesses, sets, in a 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern, and then there's different designs you can do depending on how many levers you pull at once. So I'm going to play around with that next. But I'm thinking I want a herringbone weave for the shawl that I do. If I can make my passes per inch loose enough. I'm kind of liking how floppy it is when I did it loose. This is, you can see how it's a little stiffer than that. And that's about how floppy it was before it was wet finished. I have another square that's exactly like this, and I was going to wet finish it in the sink with just a pan of hot water and some detergent, and just, mostly just getting it wet, very little agitation, just to see what the difference is. But then I realized that I had beaten the samples so hard at these other ends, and that this was closer to what I wanted, that I didn't see the point. So I'm going to try really hard this time to section off in like a square section, like I tried to do after I realized what I wanted to do with this one, and then keep one as the original and throw the other one in the washer. I might do a third one to do just a regular wet finished. I don't know. We'll see. It takes so long to warp and my back hurts. It took me like 3 days to warp those 72 strands. Granted, I only was able to work at them like maybe a few hours at a time, but I still spent a bit of time each day on it. It still took like 3 days. I'd say it took 10, 12 hours total. I'll say 10. I'll just say 10 hours total to do that. If you take away all the breaks in between. Maybe. I don't know, maybe it shouldn't have. It just seemed like it took a really long time. So we'll see. And then, I believe my reed is a 24 inch. It's like 24, 25 inch. It's like a little bit over 24, but I don't think it's quite enough to be 25 inches. And according to the weaving calculator, that means that at most I would get a like about a 20-inch wide shawl out of it. So I think that'll still be wide enough, because I just want like a shoulder wrap kind of thing, and I want to leave the this purple long fringe about 4 inches and braid it or twist it. I haven't decided yet. Maybe bead it. And if it doesn't turn out exactly the way I like it, oh well. I mean, like I said, this has been in my stash. The only stuff I have that's older is some Brown Sheep Company bulky singles that I got to do my nail binding with, because that's what we used in the nail binding class, which is what started me on all of this fiber stuff so many years ago. So I took a nail binding class, which, for those of you who don't know what nail binding is, it's also known as single needle knitting. You use a tapestry needle in your thumb, and you kind of make loops on your thumb to produce the what looks like knitted fabric, but it's actually more knotted than, because it's looped together and it won't unravel like knitting does. And I'm in the SCA, which is the Society for Creative Anachronisms, which is a medieval recreation group. And a couple times a year, local groups will have what's called either a collegium or an ithra, which is basically a day long or a weekend long series of classes. Teachers teach different things that either about the history of the time period or how to make things that would be relevant to the time period. And I needed one more class in the morning, very first class in the morning. None of them were anything that had appealed to me, but my friends were going to be in class, and I didn't want to sit around for 4 hours waiting for the next class that I had gone there for. So I decided to pick this null binding class, and I got addicted. I was so in love. And it works best with a bulky single wool, especially when you're first learning, because you can only work with a yard or two at a time, since you're pulling the entire skein that you've got pulled off through the loop on your thumb. You don't want to pull a 28 yard skein of wool through each loop, through each pass. So you just work with like a yard or two at a time, and then you have to, when you're ready for the next yard, you have to splice it together, and wool works best for that because you can just do like a split splice. Split splice? Yeah, that's right. And so I was just working with the colors of Brown Sheep Company's super bulky singles, because that's really what was the only thing that seemed appropriate. But I kind of wanted to branch out a little bit, and I fell in love with this skein. These are my favorite colors. I love purple and green. So this is 2 colors of purple, green, and then with some white. And I just fell in love with it, and I was like, I'm going to make myself like a shrug with it, out of null binding. I was going to null bind myself a shrug out of it. So, and I think it was on sale. I think it was being discontinued at that particular time, and that's why it was on sale, because the yarn store was getting rid of it. And so I bought, I want to say I have 6 skeins of it. Let's see. It is 191 yards per skein. Oh, so I almost have 10 skeins of it then. I know I don't think I have 1100. I might have 1190 yards. Maybe that's what I've got. So yeah, I'll say I have 9 or 10 skeins of it. So yeah, I've got enough to weave up a project. And I went to my storage shed a couple days ago to continue to look for my other spindle projects. I found it's supposed to be a pipe holder, like, you know, smoking pipes, but it looked like it would be perfect for holding my spindles. And for the most part it is. It needs to be modified a little bit. I've had it for a year and haven't modified it yet, but I do have the spindles in it. I just have to be careful when I move them, because they'll slip out the way they are now. But because I didn't want them all attached to the fibers I had been spinning, I disattached the fibers and put them in a bag, and I thought I moved them to my storage shed when I was cleaning my room one time. I've got a couple boxes in my storage shed that are for my works in progress, and I thought I'd put them in those boxes, and they're not in there. And so then I looked through all my other bags of fiber and yarn, and I still can't find them. So I don't know what happened to them, unfortunately. But while I was in the storage shed looking for yarn, I also decided to look for, I have another yarn that's similar to this, but more muted colors. It's like a baby blue, a light green, and it might be like a light pink. I'm not sure if it's a 4-ply. I think it might only be 3, but it's a cotton blend that's, you know, each ply is a different color kind of situation, just like that. And I got it out of a discount bin again, but I don't have like 3 skeins of it, and they're much smaller skeins than that. And I wanted to grab that too. So I figured that would be, I've been having a hard time figuring out what to knit out of it, again, because it's cotton. So I figured maybe I'll weave maybe a table runner or something out of it, but I couldn't find that either. I had all of my fiber and yarn and fabric that wasn't part of an ongoing project on shelves I had made in my storage shed, alternating my Rubbermaid tubs with some planks of wood left over from a project that my fiance made. And so I just used the planks of wood as the shelves. And the storage unit where I have everything repaved the road, and before they did that, they put one of those big street cleaners through it, and I think the vibration of that caused everything to fall over, because I opened up the thing and everything was falling over, and I had tested it 50 million different ways to make sure that it wouldn't fall over, so I guess it just, I don't know, but it fell over and things got scattered, and I thought I've located everything, but I'm missing stuff now, so I don't, unless somebody broke into my unit looking for stuff and just happened to steal the two things I've been looking for recently. I don't know. But while I was in the storage shed, I did also grab all the other mystery fibers that I had gotten with what I'm now calling the bamboo fluff. I originally thought it was a silk wool blend, and I was going to spin it up to ply it with the rainbow sampler that I spun on my drop spindle during I finished up during the Tour de Fleece this year. I spun it last year too, Tour de Fleece. And I was going to use that to ply it up with, and after I carded up the bamboo fluff, I weighed the rainbow sampler, and then I weighed the bamboo fluff, and I'm short about 0.7 ounces. And that's just, ounce for ounce. I can't guarantee that I'm going to spin up anything else at exactly the same yardage per ounce as I did the rainbow sampler, so I would really like to have more ounces than the rainbow sampler to make sure I have enough yarn. So I got, the bamboo fluff was originally part of this lot. We'd gotten like a mill end of fiber, and there was all this different kind of stuff in this grab bag, and me and my friend split it, or rather she'd gotten it and she sent me half of it. And so it's been sitting, just some of it didn't seem like there was enough of a particular kind of thing to really do anything with, so they've just been kind of sitting in a couple different bags based on how I split it up. So I went and grabbed all that, and then I found I have another mystery wool bat that I grabbed. And I also grabbed my faux cashmere, which the bamboo fluff reminded me of, the way it was all fluffy and short. And faux cashmere is just nylon. So I'm trying to decide what my finished object's going to be for the rainbow sampler. So I finally put it on my ball winder. So this was what had been on my drop spindle while I was beach camping, spinning during the Tour de Fleece. And I've got to decide exactly what do I want to do with it. And one of the things I could do is, instead of doing a 2-ply like I originally planned, I could do a 3-ply and make it into a sock yarn. Maybe do arm warmers instead of socks. But if I want the option of having it to be socks, I could mix the faux cashmere in with the bamboo fluff on my carder, therefore giving it more resilience, because nylon's added to wools for sock yarns for that. So from what I understand, bamboo can take the place of nylon, but I don't trust that as much. I'd much rather have a wool bamboo nylon sock than a wool bamboo sock. So I think I'd want to add that. I also I have a blend of wool nylon already, but it's like a brown, it's a tan beige. And one of the things I was thinking of is keeping 1-ply white, dyeing the 2nd-ply black, and then plying it with the rainbow. If I decide to do a 3-ply sock yarn. So I spun up the wool nylon blend, and dyed that black, and then kept the bamboo fluff mixed with the faux cashmere white, since they're both bright white. That might work. I don't know, I haven't had a chance to really go through the mystery wool pile to decide what I want to do, since I miscategorized the bamboo fluff because I hadn't pulled it apart. I'm going to do that with some of the other mystery fiber, and actually pull a fluff out, see how long the staple is, do a burn test on it, because we thought it was varying degrees of wool blends, but that, the bamboo fluff, which I'm not 100% sure is bamboo, but considering the age at the time that it came out, there's only a few options for what kind of fiber it could be, so I'm calling it bamboo for now, since I don't really know what else. I know it's 100% plant fiber by the way it burned, so I'll just do a burn test on the other mystery fibers and see if I can't find something that's compatible, figure out what I want to blend it with on my carder. And I need to figure that out soon, because I'm going to be starting my next, spinning tour alongside a grand tour of bicycle race, which is the Vuelta a Lana, which is going to take place along the Vuelta a España, August 25th, I believe, which is next week. So I would really like to get the bamboo fluff all prepared and ready to spin, so that I can, when I go places and I know I'm not going to be spinning on my wheel that day, I can spin on my drop spindle. And especially since I'm going to be going beach camping again during, I don't know why I keep picking the dates of this, but it just happened to work out that way. So we're going beach camping again, a little bit further north up the coast than we did last time. And, I'm only going to be going 3 nights this time, so 4 days, 3 nights. But that's still 4 days where I probably want my drop spindle, so that I can post my daily progress of spinning. And I would like to get an object finish, so the more I spin on my drop spindle to get the rainbow samplers finished, the happier I'll be. So trying to get all these projects out that I'm going through my spinning projects the way some people go through their knitting works in progress, and deciding what I'm going to finish and what I'm just going to toss. And one of the things I did when I was going through the fiber to look for something to card with the bamboo fluff was run across an old alpaca project. Llama, actually. It was llama. And again, this was back when I first was null binding, and I needed bulky singles to null bind with, and this is why I learned to spin, was because my boyfriend at the time was allergic to wool, and so I wanted to make things that he could use. So I started spinning llama, because the only single bulky llama yarn I could find was like $25 a skein for the very small amount of yardage, and I was very poor at the time, and that just wasn't an option. So next to that very expensive scheme of bulky llama was some llama fluff for like $2 an ounce and a $10 drop spindle. So I taught myself how to spin because of that. And then I branched off into other fibers as time went by, and dyed fibers and all these different colors, and but I had this llama project I had started, and then I'd ran out of that llama, and so I bought some more brown llama to try and have get more yardage, because I was going to make myself a hat to sleep in during the SCA camping events, and I wanted it to be llama because it was going to be near my boyfriend at the time, who was allergic to wool. So I bought some more brown llama, only it wasn't the same shade brown llama because it was a different llama. So I ended up with Oh, I got a better job at that point, and I ended up with a whole bunch of different shades of brown llama trying to match it to the stuff I'd already spun. And I'm looking back at this stuff, and like I said, it was some of the first stuff I spun, and it's all over the place as far as thick and thin goes. And it's like, I don't think I want to use this. I've got a ton of brown llama. I can start over again if I decided I wanted to do that project, which I don't think I'm going to. I haven't really done any null bonding in a while, and if I did pick it up again, it would be to finish a couple sock projects that are just kind of sitting there. And I can't unravel them to use the yarn for knitting very easily, so I either need to toss them or null bind them. So there's that. So I grabbed those yarns, and I'm going to reclaim the core they're wrapped around. Just got some really nice, I think they're supposed to be like the core for weaving shuttles, because it was part of a lot of stuff I inherited from a woman. When a woman, she used to be a weaver and spinner and all their stuff, and she passed away, and her daughter-in-law, who lived at the artist commune, they were all in, gave me one of her spinning wheels. So it was my first spinning wheel, and gave me a whole bunch of coned cotton, which is what this stuff is from. the purple that will work for that. And these cardboard, really thick, nice cardboard cores. They're only about, they're not very thick. I mean, they're not very big around. So I really think they were for weaving shuttles. But they make really nice cores for yarns, for various things. They won't work on my ball winder now that I've got one, but they'll work for other things, so I'm going to reclaim them from the yarns that they were on. And either just plain out trash those yarns or save them for posterity. I already have a whole bunch of my first spun yarns, but it's kind of this, look, this is what I spun when I first started, and I'm never going to do anything with this because it's horrible, but I have it around just to kind of look back at. And also to show newbies, it's like, okay, this is what my first yarn looked like, and this is what my current yarn looks like. There is improvement. I do feel like I've backslid because I wasn't spinning for a while, but I'm getting back to it. I mean, this one, considering that I just sat here for all this long without checking how thick this was, it's still fairly consistent. The thick and thin issues I've got nowadays are a lot more, like, to the naked eye it's really hard to tell the difference until you ply it up, and then you can see one ply versus the other and the thin and thickness. You can't really tell until you do that. Whereas my other singles, my first few years of spinning, you could tell just looking at them how bad it is. So I'm still not perfect, but maybe I never will be. Maybe that's asking too much to have exactly the same thickness yarn throughout an entire large bobbin when I put it down and don't spin for a few days and things like that. But I don't know if anybody's like that. Maybe there are a few spinners that are that good, and maybe there are spinners that have been spinning for 50 years that are not quite that good. I mean, you'd have to really use instruments to tell that the thin and thick parts are different. But who knows? Maybe it's something you can't quite be that precise, because we are dealing with just handheld stuff and a whole bunch of different factors, and one day you might be more stressed out than the other day and spin a little bit differently. Don't know. So I try not to be too hard on myself when I get a little thick and thin, because I'm definitely a long ways from those first skeins of yarn that I spun up. But I don't know if I need to hold on to all the skeins of yarn that are rejects. at this point. So first up is to reclaim those cores, those cardboard bobbin cores, and then from there I think I'm going to trash the llama. One of them was dyed, one of my first dye attempts, and I felted the crap out of these. Might have been mohair, might have been Corriedale, some really curly locked fiber animal. I think it was a sheep that had curly locks. It was my first dye attempt. I know I have a lot of mohair. I love mohair. But I think this first dye attempt was actually a sheep that was similar that I had gotten because it looked like mohair. And I felted it. But I tried to spin it anyways, and I finally gave up on it. And that's on one of the other cardboard cores. And that one I might save just to kind of show off for the whole, look how bad I was. But, I think the llama might become part of my fire starting camp fluff bag that I keep. That includes the dryer fluff. So the other thing while I was looking for all this other wool, I found some of my early dyeing experiments, I found some reds. Just little bits of fluff. And I think I'm going to spin them and splice them into this, because the one thing I don't like about this, and you can't tell very well, there's two things actually. Only one of the purples came out really purple. I had a lot of fiber samples that were purple and some other color, and when they spun up, I just didn't get that. None of them came out to be, like this shade of purple. So I'd kind of like to get some of that to put at the end. And also, there's just not really a red. There's a pink, there's a dark pink, and then it goes into an orange, and then yellow. And then there's the browns at the outside, because that's what I did with the brown samplers that I had. So I've got a couple different shades of red. One's like a really dark, deep, beautiful red. And then I've got more of a cherry red. So I think I'm going to spin those up and separate where the browns are. Maybe I'll do it on the other sides of the pink. I'm not sure yet. But somewhere before the orange, I'm going to splice in some more yarn, because then it'll make it, and then find some purple and do that at the end. And then it'll be more of a true rainbow. Right now it's in rainbow order, but it's really heavy on the kind of green, tealy green, which, gee, I have a lot of teal green yarn, but it wasn't intended to do that. And granted, I didn't pick these colors. These were all samples I'd gotten from, buying drop spindles. They include a little bit of fiber for you to practice spinning the spindle on, especially when you've ordered it online. And just lots of times when you order any kind of fiber or yarn online, you'll get little things included. And I've just collected them, didn't know what to do with them, and finally decided to spin them up in rainbow order on my drop spindle. Only now I'm not completely happy with my rainbow and want to add some red and purple. I'm happy with everything else. Got enough green in there. There's like a grass green in there, a lighter grass green, but still, there's a grass green in there. There's a couple yellows. I'm not a big yellow person. I probably could stand some more orange, but I think there's enough orange in there. But there's no true reds, and that bothers me. So I'm gonna insert some more colors into that rainbow sampler, which of course means I'm going to need even more yardage for whatever it is I decide to play it with. And I still have to decide if I want it to be a 2-ply and make it into like a shawl, if I want to make a 3-ply and make it into like socks or arm warmers or something. They'll be fraternal twins if I make it into socks or arm warmers, because it starts from one end of the rainbow, goes to the other. So one sock would be, like brown to yellow, and the other one would be like green to purple, but c'est la vie. So I don't know. I'll figure it out. figure it out what I want to do exactly at some point. One of the other things I'm working on right now is some project bags. While I was at the storage shed, I grabbed what has now turned into a giant Rubbermaid tub of fabric. It started off as just a few fat quarters because I discovered a craft store when I moved to Salem that has a quilting section, and they have a clearance rack thing of their seasonal fat quarters. And so you can get like a fat quarter for $1. And then they have their other sales where you get things for 50% off. So some of the more higher end non-seasonal fat quarters I could get for like $2. So I went a little crazy during the last truck sale I had money for. Plus just whenever I'd go in there, you know, if my mom was buying something, can I have this? It's just $1. And well, now it's a giant pile of fabric. Or if I go to a thrift store and find something that I thought would make a good lining, and it's only like a couple bucks. Like I got this one bundle of fabric for $2, and another bundle of fabric for $3, and it's like a whole bunch of stuff. And it's, you know, pretty, but not really something I'd want on the outside of my project bag, but it'll make a nice lining. So I washed out the last bits that I'd had that hadn't made it to the storage shed yet, and I've been ironing those yesterday. I'm almost done. And then I'm going to go through my bag, my box rather, of all my different fibers and pick my next project bag. I was going to do on the camping trip I went with for my nephew's birthday a couple months ago up in Washington. There was a thrift store in town, the town nearby, and I picked up some basically rainbow plaid scraps, and I was going to make that into a project bag because I also have some white linen shot with rainbow colors. So I thought those two would go good together. But then when I found my box of fabric, I remembered I have Halloween fabric that I'd gotten on clearance last year, and Halloween's coming up in a couple months. So I think I'm going to make a Halloween bag and maybe the rainbow bag. We'll see. I'm going to go through everything and decide which ones, because I don't think I'm going to have time to make more than 2 if I want to get more weaving done. I've got to get, my living room is basically craft central at the moment, and I'm going to need to get that cleaned up before I go on my camping trip because my mother will be home while I'm camping, so I don't want her to come home to her living room being trashed. This is another reason why we are looking for a house. I'm living with my mother because she had a bad fall. She's okay. She's been okay, but she falls sometimes, and I just don't want her to be alone this time. So that's why I moved in with her. But it doesn't leave any room for my stuff. That's why all my stuff lives in a storage shed, because we're living in her 2-bedroom, single-wide trailer on a 55 and over community place, and there's just not enough room for my stuff. There's not enough room. If I start a project, I either have to leave the living room a mess, which, you know, gets on my mom's nerves after a while, or I have to pack it up if I can't get it done in a couple days. And so I really need, there's just no real room in my bedroom. I don't really have room for my clothes in my bedroom. I have to swap everything out from the storage shed and rewash everything because I guess that storage shed smell. So we're looking for a new house, and one of the main requirements is that there will be some room that will be my craft room, or a space in the yard where we can get a storage shed type, one of those little mobile little sheds, and that'll be my craft room. Just some place where I can set up a project, whether it be sewing or weaving or what have you, and I don't have to take it down until I'm done with it, or I want to move on to a different project, which in that case I'm temporarily done with the first project. But at least I can just leave it in the room. It'll be a lot less stress for me, a lot less stress for my mother, and I can get my stuff done. So that's the plan for that. So yeah, I've got a list of things I need to get done before my mother comes home. That involves both cleaning the house and what projects I would want to get done, since everything has to get put away. So I'm hoping to get a couple project bags sewn up, and then get the loom warped again. And I was hoping to get the loom warped for the big project before she got back, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point. Not if I want to play around with herringbone. But I don't think it's going to take as much space as I thought it would to direct warp the loom, so I think I can still take over a corner of the living room without blocking people's access to the kitchen. I think I figured out how I can do that. It's still going to be a little awkward. I'm going to have to move a little bit of furniture around. But hopefully it won't take me too long, and then once the loom is warped, I can put the furniture back the way it was. And I do have a desk in my room that I can set the loom up on. I just definitely can't direct warp it in there. It's way too small. But once it's warped, I can put it on that desk and keep it in there. It's just enough space. In fact, we got this desk specifically with the loom in mind because it's wide enough. It's almost square, so and it fits in the one corner without blocking the closet. Well, there's a little bit of space. Almost blocks the closet, but you can get to it. But I needed I didn't know we were going to get in a new place, and I knew I needed a place to put this loom. Mom kept wanting, like, why haven't you started weaving? I bought you this loom. It's like, because there's no room. So we got me a desk that fits it, that still fits in the bedroom. So that's where that will go once I've got it properly warped up, which I need to do in the living room. So that's about it. Like I said, gonna work on some project bags. Gonna work on another sample of weaving. Next week is more spinning tour with the Vuelta a Lana, and there's a Facebook group for that if you want to join. I'll put the links in the description on my show notes on my WordPress blog. And there is a Ravelry group. It's been quiet for several years from when I had podcast before, and I wasn't podcasting for a long time, so it's gone very quiet. But there is a Ravelry group, and I try and post something about the episodes in each one. So if you want to come and say hi to me in my Ravelry group and start a discussion, I'd love that. I'd love to get it going again. And I hope everybody's having a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.